Good morning once again and welcome to Doncaster Circuit's morning devotion. Today, January the 6th, is Epiphany. That time we celebrate the visit of the wise men to Jesus. Now, I've always identified with the wise men. Not because I'm particularly wise, but because I always wanted to be. I used to see wisdom as something to possess, a commodity, a thing. And I suppose that's why I went to college to study theology. There was a hunger in me to know, to possess something hard, if not sometimes impossible to define. And for the lack of a better term, I called it wisdom. Thankfully, early in those college years, I did discover that there was more to wisdom than the accumulation of facts and information. Although I hadn't found what true wisdom was, I was at least given the grace to recognize its imposter. Wisdom is not the ability to be correct all the time. Although I suppose some people who are wise are right more often than people who are a bit stupid. Now, I've learned that wisdom is not facts or the accumulation of them, though that is what our educational system seems to believe. Genuine wisdom is concerned with life, a life well lived perhaps. Wisdom isn't something we know as much as something we become. Like life, wisdom is impossible to define or grasp. And if the Magi were truly wise men, they would have understood this. Perhaps that's why they left on their long journey in the first place. This was a long journey. They came from the east. Scholars think that they may have been priests, probably from Persia. They foolishly followed the star for months, perhaps even years, which doesn't sound like wisdom to me, but rather foolishness or faith. They're called Magi in the Gospels. Herodotus described the Magi as a special group of priests who had to be present at sacrifices to speak certain sacred words, known only to them. When we finally come upon the Magi in Matthew, however, they don't seem to have much to say. The Bible simply says they bowed down and worshipped him. Perhaps they were silent because they recognized in this little baby a wisdom that went beyond theirs. Instead, pondering the mystery of this wisdom, they fell on their knees and they worshipped. They must have felt great relief at the coming to the end of their long journey, for there was no true worship without that sense that you finally found what you've been looking for all of your life. And we assume, of course, that there were 3 wise men because 3 gifts are mentioned. But I'd like to think that there were many more. They offered the baby gifts that were no doubt intended was some potentate, gold, frankincense, and myrrh. Upon seeing the young child, by now Jesus was perhaps no longer a baby, and the Holy Family was living in a house. The Magi's priceless gifts must have shrunk into worthless insignificance as they watched the child. It had been a long journey for many. And for many of us today, it's a long journey still. There are many writers who describe their lives as a journey, a sacred one. C.S. Lewis, Malcolm Muggeridge, and others. Bunyan's famous metaphor of the Pilgrim's Progress is really only the story of a journey. Our journey begins where the wise men's ended. Like them, we found a wisdom, not to ponder, but to worship. A wisdom that is not a matter of words, but who is the Word. This wisdom has everything to do with life, because He is the life. He gives us wisdom because He gives us Himself. The Magi journeyed to Jesus, but our journey is with Jesus, a sacred and a long journey with Him. Have a blessed day and be thankful that we're on a journey with Him.